Did you have any intelligence pointing to an insurrection like we saw?
No, we did not have any specific information with kind of the timeline of possible implementation of Prigozhin's plans. But for us, it has always been pretty obvious that it's just a matter of time when someone in Russia will dare to challenge Putin, because we saw how his power and authority is shrinking, and how Russia is entering very difficult turbulence. So Prigozhin is just the first one who dared, but I have no doubts that others will follow one way or another.
Do you think that Vladimir Putin is fully in command and in power in Moscow right now?
Well, that's a tricky question. Formally, yes. I think he is still the center of power in the system, but too many parts or elements of the system saw the obvious, that he can be challenged and that some decisions can be taken without his clearance. So what he's probably trying to do now is to reassert his control over the system. I doubt he will succeed, but that's my assessment. What we've seen is just the next phase of the disintegration of Russia, of Putin's power vertical, and it's unavoidable. This is the process you can try to slow down, but you cannot stop it. We saw similar processes in the past.
I want to ask you one important thing about this. We understand from our reporting that U.S. officials had extremely detailed advance warning of Prigozhin's plans, the Wagner troop movements, and everything that we saw unfold this weekend. But that they did not share this with Ukraine because they were concerned that those communications would be intercepted. Right? It was a concern about interception. Do you think that's a fair concern?
Well, we enjoy a very good level of intelligence cooperation with the United States. But of course, in the end, the United States decide on the volume of information that can be shared. What is important, I think, since the events were taking place in the territory of Russia, that's one thing. But if anything had been planned in the territory of Ukraine, I have no doubts that the U.S. Biden administration would share this information with us. But when it comes to Russia, this is a slightly different story.
So you're not angry that they didn't share that information?
No. I only feel frustrated with the United States when decisions on delivering certain types of weapons to Ukraine take more time than I wish it took. But overall, we're extremely grateful to the Biden administration and to the people of the United States for everything they're doing for Ukraine.
So has the rebellion in Russia, as you've seen over just these past few days, and I know it's sort of still the fog and chaos of it, but has it changed anything on the front lines? I spoke to a drone operator, a Ukrainian drone operator. He's operating near Bakhmut, and he was saying on Saturday they felt a palpable panic from the Russians, but that it then subsequently returned to what he said would be quote-unquote normal in terms of their behavior.
If this mutiny had lasted for 48 hours more, I'm pretty certain we would have felt a demoralizing impact on the Russian forces fighting in the south and east of Ukraine. Unfortunately, Prigozhin gave up too quickly, so there was no time for this demoralizing effect to penetrate Russian trenches.
When Putin finally spoke, he obviously didn't mention Prigozhin by name. He talked about traitor and treason, but he didn't use his name. Lukashenko supposedly brokered the whole deal, did a press conference today. Guess what? He didn't mention Prigozhin at all. What do you think is happening here? And because it is so significant for Wagner, and which has been so important in this war, do you have any sense as to where Prigozhin is?
I don't care, really. But there was a picture of a Wagner tank being stuck in between the gates of the circus in the city of Rostov. And I think that this is the best picture to explain in a nutshell the current situation of Wagner. Stuck in the middle of, it is still a war machine, but it is stuck in a circus of Russian politics. I think Wagner will not continue its existence as in the current form. But I don't really care what is going to happen to them, because we think about what is happening in Ukraine.
But if it changes its existence in its current form, that could have huge implications for you. I mean, we've been talking about in Bakhmut for months, right? Wagner troops being so central. So if it changes its existence,
that remains to be seen. When you fight a war, what really matters is the type of engagement on the battlefield. So if Wagner disintegrates or falls into pieces, but part of it will will become part of the regular Russian army and end up on the front line fighting in exactly the same way as they did, being part of Wagner, then the change will not be that visible. But if something deeper and more damaging will happen to them, and for example, some of the veterans with excellent fighting record will decide to retire entirely, yes, that helps.
And what is the greatest challenge that you're facing in doing that right now on those front lines where that daily fighting is happening?
Minefields, reinforced defensive lines, and Russia's domination in the air. These are the three factors that cause the biggest problems for us. But against the background of these factors, we're still moving forward steadily. I understand that people, we are a generation of Netflix and everyone wants a blockbuster, but sometimes things take time to evolve, especially when life of people, of real human beings is at stake.
One big question out there remains the nuclear question, and obviously the Ukrainian intelligence chief says Putin has drafted and approved, those are his words, plans to attack the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which, as we know, is the largest in Europe. President Zelensky has also warned of such a possible attack recently. How real is this risk, do you think?
As long as Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant remains in the hands of Russia, the risk is real. The question I think Russia is struggling with is the problem of attribution, because of course they don't want to be blamed for causing another nuclear disaster. So I think they're struggling to find the way to perform it as a false flag operation or as something else that would not be directly attributable to them. And this is why it gets so important, and I want really to take the opportunity of this conversation to really call spade a spade. Because what international media did with the explosion at the new Kakhovka Dam, when they cast doubt about who did it, that is exactly what Russia is looking for, to cast doubt and throw shadow